Hey everyone, welcome back. We are officially in the Set 5 metagame. Shimmering Skies has released. We got a whole bunch of new cards to brew with. So let's start looking at some decks. Now, my idea here is to show us the deck that I think is going to be the most impactful at the beginning of the meta. All decks are going to need to be aware of this deck and probably have a game plan to work against it. And it just so happens that this deck is probably a great beginner deck. It has historically been a great beginner deck, so it might be something to check out for all of those brand new players that are looking to get into the game but also want to have a strong deck. And this deck is going to be Amber, Amethyst, Hyper Aggro. The goal here is we are just going to try to win as fast as possible. We do not care about our opponent's game plan. We just try to win before they can even do anything. The reason that this is great for beginners is it really just gives you one thing to focus on, and is how can I gain as much lore as quickly as possible. You do not really need to know about your opponent's cards. You do not need to know about their game plan. It is very focused in on just what you are doing. So let's get started. So the card that is going to really push this into the more competitive scene, where this has always been a deck that's been around. It keeps the control decks at bay, but this new card we got in Shimmering Skies, Daisy Duck, 1 cost, uninkable, 1/4 that quests for 2. Whenever it quests, your opponent reveals the top card of their deck, and if it's a character, it goes into their hand. If it's not a character or an action, it goes into the bottom of their deck. So this card with the 4 willpower is going to be really tough to deal with, and it's going to be able to get a lot of lore at the beginning of the game really quickly. Again, decks are going to need to be built to try to take this out by turn 2, turn 3 at the latest. If not, you're just going to gain too much lore and make too much of an advantage. So that is going to be the one card that's going to send us over the top. Now, historically in the past, why these two colors have already been deemed as the Hyper Aggro deck is we have a couple of other 1-drops that quest for 2. So we have this Lilo that's a 1/1 that quests for 2. And then we have a Maleficent that's the same exact stat line, 1/1 that quests for 2. So we have a bunch of these 1-drops. That's going to be our goal, is to try to get a lot of lore from these 1-drops. And then we also have a bunch of other aggressive cards. So we have this Piglet here, which is a 2-cost 2/2 that quests for 1, but it says when you have 2 or more characters in play, he gains 2 lore. So on turn 1, we play Daisy Duck, ideally. On turn 2, we play a Piglet. And then on turn 3, we're going to play one of our bodyguard characters. So we have a couple of bodyguard characters that really help with this aggressive game plan. So the first one is this Donald Duck, a 3-cost inkable 2/3. It has bodyguard. It quests for 1, but it says when you play this character, chosen character gets +1 lore this turn. So again, you're getting more lore. You're being super aggressive. So idea, Daisy Duck, you quest for 2. Next turn, you play a Piglet. And then you play this, so you're questing for 6 on the turn that you play this, because you can give this +1. This is going to get 3 from having characters out. So again, you're already at 8 lore by the turn. It's by turn 2. So, and then you're set up to get a bunch more. So, and then the other bodyguard we're going to have here is this Baloo, a 3-cost uninkable 0/3 bodyguard. It quests for 1, but it says whenever this character is banished, we gain 2 lore. So again, just giving us lore makes it kind of awkward to deal with, because your opponents are going to have to take it out to get to your other smaller characters that are questing for a lot. But when they do so, you're doing what you want to do. You want to gain lore. And that's really our game plan, is just gain as much lore as possible as quickly as possible. So some other cards that do this. A new card here in Set 5, Shimmering Skies. Not good in most decks, but in this deck, I think that it's, again, we only have one goal in mind, and it does exactly what we want to do. 2-cost uninkable, gain 2 lore. Easy. Another Amethyst card. This one's a staple. Where this one's going to be a little bit later in the game. Most of the time you can ink it, but the fact that you can play it and gain 1 lore right away is great. If it leaves the battlefield, you get another lore, so it's effectively 2 lore on a body. And another card is going to be this Miracle Candle. So it's a 2-cost inkable, and when you can banish this item, and if you have 3 or more characters in play, you gain 2 lore and remove up to 2 damage from chosen location. That last part doesn't matter. The gaining lore does. Normally, this card is hard to fit into other decks, because this is considered to be a win more card. So if you have 3 characters on the board, you're already probably have a good control of the board. You're probably already winning. This has a little bit less value. But in this type of deck where these hyper aggro decks are always going to have an early advantage, and it's just a matter of can you get to 20 or do you stop earlier. So anything that helps just push us up, even when we're winning more, we want to snowball that lead as quickly as possible. All of these cards are exactly what we want to be doing. So this is our aggressive game plan. These are aggressive cards. These are what's going to help us win lore. This is what's going to help us play the game. Now, we need some stuff to make our deck a little bit more consistent, mainly in the form of card draw. So with this deck, we are playing a lot of uninkables. We are playing a lot of low-cost characters. So what that's going to mean is if we play a low-cost character, we play one-on-one. If you play both of these on turn 2, that's a really strong play. You're giving yourself a lot of potential lore, but we're losing a lot of the cards in our hand. If we play those and they get gone, and we don't have any other cards in our hand, we're in a bad spot. So the idea is that we want to find card draw that is working with the game plan that we're doing and is usually kind of cheap. So one of the new cards released in Shimmering Skies is this Amethyst Chromicon. It's a 2-cost inkable item that says when you exert this item, each player may draw a card. Similar to the Daisy Duck, we don't care too much about our opponents getting card. We are going to be able to use our cards much quicker and to much more effect than an opponent's going to be able to use it. And again, we're trying to win before it even matters that they have card advantage. We're just trying to race them down. So 4 of these in here. We're going to put 4 of every single card. I'm not going to get too cute with other things right now, but just keeping 4 of everything. So we're going to have 15 unique cards, 4 of each for a 60-card deck. So we have the Amethyst Chromicon. Now, we're going to look at some other card draw options, and we're going to try to find some stuff that is still designed to be doing what we're going to be doing. So we're not going to play a Friends on the other side just because spending 3 to just sit there and do nothing isn't what we want to be doing. We could play it with the idea of having our bodyguards sing it, but really I think that having them quest if they ready again is going to be super important. So what we're going to do is look at some characters that help us draw cards. So Chernabog. So the first one I'm going to look at is this Chernabog's Followers. It's a 1-cost inkable 2/1. Quest for 1, and it says when this character quests, you may banish them to draw a card. So another low-cost creature. We can quest with it, and then when we think that it's going to be challenged away, we can quest with it and then banish it, and then we just draw a card. Really good. We see this in a lot of Amethyst decks. Really, really strong. The other one that does something similar is this Magic Broom here that was introduced in Ursula's Return. It is a 1-cost inkable 1/2, and whenever you play another character, you may banish this character to draw a card. So we play it, we quest with it, we play another character, we break this to draw a card. Again, we're getting cards in our hand, but we're still playing characters. We're still questing. It's going to allow us to get the Miracle Candle off more frequently. It's going to allow us to get Piglet off more frequently. Again, all these cards are working together for one singular game plan. And then we're going to do one other 1-drop. But I think for that, again, we don't need a lot of card draw. We're just needing some card draw to help sustain us through those later turns 4, turn 5, give us some extra room just to try to close the door. We're also going to put in a 1-drop Pascal here, 1-cost 1/1. It is inkable, and it says whenever you have another character in play, this character gains evasive. Again, evasive just makes it challenging for your opponent to deal with, but we want low-cost stuff. We want stuff that's going to get down. Now, we are at 52 cards, which means we have room for 2 more cards. And some of these you can, mess around with. None of this is set in stone, but find what works for you. One of the cards that I do think is going to be really important in this deck is this Befuddle. So I did say earlier we don't need to worry about what our opponent's doing, but what this card does, so it's a 1-cost inkable action. It says return a character or item with cost 2 or less to their player's hand. So I was playing this deck with my girlfriend the other day, and she played a blue steel, played a Smee on turn 2. I befuddled this to their hand, and from there it was pretty much over. Really strong to just give yourself that extra tempo. If they don't have rush characters, you're going to slow them down a lot. And again, with this Daisy Duck, if they don't have the perfect line of play, it's just going to be able to quest and quest and quest. So being able to disrupt that even a little bit is super strong. Now, there is another utility with this of being able to protect one of your own characters. So if you quest with one of your cheap characters here, and they're vulnerable to being attacked, you can befuddle it back to your hand and then play it again. So then it is readied and it can't be challenged, and you can get off another quest with it. So there's a lot of utility with this card, both for giving yourself a little bit more tempo advantage, but also from protecting any of your these low cost characters that give you a lot of lore. Now we are at our last slot here. We have 4 cards left in the deck. If we look at our curve, again, we have a lot of 1s. That's exactly what we want to do. Our 3s are just the bodyguard. The 4 is the goat. And then we have some 2 cost stuff. One thing to keep in mind is we are at 20 uninkables. Now, a lot of them are 1 cost, so it's not, it's not as bad because a lot of these 1 cost uninkables, we just want to play no matter what. There wouldn't ever be a time where we would want to ink it. This is our game plan, get those down. But at least considering as we add in our last card, that if we add in any more uninkables, there's a chance we could get some more bricks, or we just have to be careful when we're mulliganing to just keep things just for the sake of being ink. So I want to look at a couple more options. You can decide where you want to kind of go with it, but each one's going to give you a different strategy. So the first card that we could add in is this Simba. So this is just another bodyguard. It's a way to protect your characters. This has been a staple since set 1 in these hyper aggro decks, where I remember set 1 meta, if you played a Lilo into Simba, there was really hard ways to remove this, hard ways to deal with it, was very, very few. So we could put 4 of these in to give our deck a little bit more protection. Another card we could add in is this Wendy Darling. So it's a 2 cost inkable 1/3 that quests for 2. Again, just another cheap character, a quest for 2. It has a decent amount of willpower, so then it's a little bit more challenging to remove. It doesn't die to a grab your swords, doesn't grab to a baboom, so you're more likely to get a couple quests off with it. It is also inkable, which is very, very nice. And same with the Simba, that's inkable. And then the other card is this Pinocchio. So this was released in set 2. It's a 2 cost uninkable, so this would be the downside with it. It's a 1/1 that quests for 3. So we are looking at our 2 drop slot being able to quest for 3. This one's really fragile, but again, if you get it off, you're going to be able to gain a lot of lore. You're going to be able to maybe even close the door that much faster. So I think that these are the last 3 kind of slots that I'm working with. I'm going to put in the Simba. I think that offering that extra level of protection is really, really helpful. But I don't think that there's really a wrong choice there. I think it's just trying to figure out your play style. And all of these cards are things you can kind of sit and mess around with. All right, so now we're in ink table. I just want to run through a basic game. I have this loaded up against just another random deck. I think it's a blue steel. And just to give you an idea of kind of how this deck is supposed to be played. So what we really want to look for is our first 3 plays, right? So we got a pretty good hand here. We have the Daisy here for turn 1. On turn 2, either we go a Piglet, or playing these 2 1-drops is fine. Maybe we want another, Maleficent would be probably the better case than this. The Goat we can save for later. I'm going to keep the Donald. Then I'm going to get rid of some of these uninkables here, just because we really want ink. And actually, maybe for that, I can just keep the Goat, just so I have a secure ink. But we already have at least 3... first 3 turns lined up, 1, 2, 3. And let's see how that goes when we mulligan. Okay. So let's see. We're going to ink this Goat. Again, it's a little bit late. We're going to play our Daisy, and we're going to pass. Now, if they don't have a turn 1 play here, this is great. Now, remember, ink table is run by AI, so take everything here with a grain of salt. But especially for this aggro deck, it's fine to just get used to kind of the sequencing of the plays and figuring out, okay, what's the best way to really play the cards in the most efficient way to get the most lore. So now they played something slow here, so we don't need to get down this bodyguard yet. So let's actually ink it. We have another one here, and I think the goal is let's play a Chernobog's follower so we can get some more card draw, and then we're going to get a Lilo, and then we're going to quest with this. Whole New World down at the bottom. And now, we have the Donald Duck here. We can pop this at any point to get more card draw. And again, we're at this point, if we were playing this in a competitive, I would say we got this in the bag. Let's ink the Pascal. This is more valuable to us as being able to draw a card. So let's play this. We'll exert it. We'll give Daisy one. Why not? She's the star of the show. We quest. And we're just going to quest away. We're going to get up to 8 lore this turn. We don't need to break the Chernobogs yet. Maybe if they have a way to take this down. But as of right now, we are good. So now, once we're at 3, truthfully, we don't need to start inking anymore. The only other card that we have that costs 4 is the Goat. And we're at 2 cards in hand, so being able to just put down creatures and swing out is going to be really helpful. Now, did they put... So they can get to 5 next turn. They could play a Grab Your Swords, which would get rid of the Chernobog's followers. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play this Donald Duck again, because it's going to live we're going to quest with... I probably should have done this first. You always want to draw first. I'm going to break this just in case they do have a Grab Your Swords. Look at that. That's lovely. So this would not die to a Grab Your Sword. So what I'm going to do here is actually ink... I'm going to ink the Piglet here. I'm going to play Daisy, and then we're going to quest out. Again, we're going to up to 12. We'll go to 14. We'll go to 15, and we'll be threatening to win next turn. And again, it's an AI, so the plays haven't been great, but sometimes if the opponents don't get the right draws, there's nothing that they can do to stop you. In this deck, I do think there was like a Captain Hook play. Yeah, this is just playing super slow. So we're going to just win next turn. But I think that, like I was saying earlier, can be helpful just to get used to sequencing, seeing how the cards play out, and at least trying to prepare you a little bit for if you go to locals, if you're playing against friends, if you are going to play against anyone. It can at least give you some reps. You can also just do it like without playing against the computer. You can what they call like goldfishing, just kind of sit the deck out and run through it. But hopefully this is helpful for you. Again, I mainly just make these videos for fun, but if you watch them and enjoy them, please just let me know. Leave a comment, leave a like, leave a subscribe. It's helpful to know if it's getting any sort of use to anyone else. But thanks again for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.